you say you never did any type of podcast or like sit down?
Nope, this is gonna be my first time.
That's funny because I feel like we met through interview.
Yeah, right.
for FTC. So it's like I was meeting you and learning about you at the same time, which is cool though because like I feel like that set up a nice sort of foundation because like my thing is especially with the sort of like personal projects like when it's like still like amongst homies, it's we want to get people that are dope, but we want to get dope people too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's cool that like you're a dope dancer and you're a dope person. So that made it easy. It's just like, all right, this dude's cool. I could tell what he's about.
Yeah, like there's the saying of meeting your heroes, and like sometimes that hero is like actually a jerk.
Yeah.
So I try my best to be like, all right, if I'm going to be a student, I'm always a student. So whether I'm meeting a new person or like getting into a new endeavor or like practicing something that I love, it's like, okay, I'm always going to be this. I guess you could say like I've always had me growing up of looking up to superheroes to being a superhero, always being like the good guy. So
yeah, typical Spydey, typical Spydey, right on brand. This is Spydey, by the way. Spydey, amazing b-boy, amazing person. Thank you for being here. Yeah, give it up to Spydey.
Thank you.
But no, that makes so much sense though. Like that's what Spidey's about, you know. Which, like, remind me because I'm trying to remember. I know we talked about how your sort of like style relates to the name, but like is Spydey your guy? Like
Spidey when I was growing up was always like kind of my favorite superhero to watch. If you were familiar with the 90s cartoon,
of course.
That was forever like every Saturday I was dialed in watching that show. It was like such an amazing show for me.
Yep, that's my intro to him too.
Yeah, right?
Hell yeah. So
like coming up with it was like, I guess like when I was first getting into breaking, I was still kind of figuring out my name and like figuring out my style. I was only had the basics, right? I loved top rock because like there was a way of doing the steps standing. I mean, obviously anything you do standing is a little easier. But like the way how I was watching people do these steps was just like, yo, it's cool. Like they're having like these different poses as they're doing this dynamic step. So like I started in high school. From high school I went to college. I didn't think breaking or dancing would get that far. I thought it was always going to be a hobby. But then I found out that my college had a breakdancing club there, and I was just like, oh, all right, well, let me see what this is about. Like, if it's not only on TV and like I'm seeing it in high school, I'm like, all right, there's got to be something different here, right? So I walk in, it's just like people doing power, doing top rock that I've learned, like doing footwork. I was like, oh, all right, there's a huge community behind this, and not only am I seeing like this community that I saw in high school, I'm seeing different steps that, you know, from when I was learning in high school didn't make sense to me, right? So it just became like this thing like, oh, this is like, you can create your own world here.
Yeah.
Right? And then from there, I met a couple of friends who were actually, they were kind of on that same wavelength, meaning like they were learning about the same much as me. Like they only had top rock and footwork.
Yeah.
Didn't have power yet. Or my a good friend of mine, his name is Emans. He had flares and he had high flares. It was like super cool to watch. But he ended up asking me because this is where I started to learn that there was competitions and and like battles and stuff like that. And my school tended to throw a battle every year or every semester. So I was like, oh, all right, well, I wonder how this is going to work because I'm meeting all these people with different nicknames. Like, for instance, the legend Kid Glide would be there teaching. We had Hoorah from Dynamic at that time there. We had a whole bunch of guys there, and I was just like, all right, well, my name can't be Eugene. I mean, it would have been all right? Shout outs to there's actually a b-boy named Eugene. Okay. He's super dope. Super dope. But yeah, nothing against the name, by the way. But so my friend Emans and another friend of mine, his name was Jeffrey, they came up. They were like, yeah, you know, we're thinking of putting a crew together, and like we're not taking it so serious, but like we're calling the crew Marvel Heroes as the Marvel superheroes. I was like, oh, that's super dope. I was like, okay. And they were telling me like Manny was named Nightcrawler at the time, and Jeffrey was named Colossus. So I was like, I was looking at it, I was like, wait, are they saying Marvel Heroes or the X-Men? I was like, do I have to be an X-Men? I was like, I asked them, I was like, well, is it cool if like I had a different superhero? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, all right, cool. Is it all right if I be Spider-Man? Because like I already had flips at the time. Like, heck yeah. So from there, it just flew.
That's dope. It just flew.
Yeah.
Nah, that's dope. I always had this like old like sort of like concept video idea of like Marvel like styles with a different superhero. So like, before I even like knew you existed, it was like, yeah, like Spider-Man would be a b-boy. Doctor Strange would be like doing tuts and like finger tuts.
Oh,
like dexterity shit. Iron Man would be like king tuts and like popping.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Cool,
Yeah. That'd be
So
super dope.
you said that was like in college, right? But you had seen breaking before.
Yeah. So the first time I seen breaking, now you would think like living in New York City, you
Right.
would already see it on the street.
Right.
I
It's
mean,
showtime.
yeah, right. For me, honestly, it started from TV. Like I saw this show called America's Best Dance Crew.
Fuck yeah.
I believe back in 2008.
Yeah.
2007,
right?
2008,
Yeah.
around that time. And like I saw the Jabberwockies, which was cool because I'm like, as a kid, I already watched people doing popping. And I used to do that in like house parties,
Yeah. Yeah.
There was one house party that my neighbor threw one time, and like I was sitting there doing Chris Brown and Usher moves to
Yep.
win a talent show.
Hell yeah.
But then it popped up on TV, and these guys named the Jabberwockies came out, and they were doing popping. But then they started doing breaking, like power moves. And shout out to Kid Rainin. I just met him. He's super dope. He was doing swipes in the show. It was like, yo, I've never seen that type of movement before. It's just like, all right, I hope I find out where I can learn how to go and do that. And sure enough, the universe answered that. Like the next couple of weeks, I saw in my high school we had a Black African American history show, and I had couple of my football friends were performing, and they were doing popping. But then this one kid came out and started doing some footwork, and I was like, "Yo, I want to know where he goes." So, his name is David. Shout out to Agile. He was actually my first teacher in breaking my last year of high school. So
That's sick.
yeah.
So you say did you play football in high school too?
I did. I played from my sophomore year of high school. I played for Bayside High School.
Okay.
And from there, I thought that was going to be it. I thought I was going to go to college. I was going to get a scholarship and go in for football.
Oh shit! So you was like all in on football. What position did you play?
So I played 3 different positions. Sophomore year, I actually played this thing called a wingback, which is like kind of like a tight end.
Okay.
But now imagine this little small guy on the
tight
line.
This is like Jeremy Shockey, like
It's like big guy,
Yeah.
small guy. I was like, oh, okay. But like sometimes they would go out for a pass, like a tight end, right? My junior year, I played cornerback and receiver, and then my last year, I finished the season out with like being a running back.
dope.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, because that's what I was gonna say. Like, breaking is such a athletic form of dance. I mean, obviously, all dance is athletic to an extent, but some more than others. So it's like to have that already, athlete.
Yeah.
Story
Yeah, like
that-
kind of
yeah.
having the strength already.
Yeah. I'm sure that helped.
It did. There was times I was watching people trying to do handstands, and like it looked like they
Yeah.
were struggling with it. For me, it was like a little bit of a struggle.
But like,
but it was like I had the strength to do it. Yeah.
No, that's dope. I did like we had like a breaking club sort of thing going on in high school. It was really honestly just like 2 friends of me and MJ's that were like, yo, we're starting to learn how to break. Like, you guys want to come learn with us?
Dope.
And like me personally, like I always liked dance. I always loved dance. I didn't take it seriously until like maybe the beginning of high school. Like I joined like the first local dance company I was a part of and stuff. But it was more like studio stuff. like contemporary, a little bit of hip hop.
Like choreography?
Yeah, yes, a lot of like stage choreography and stuff. But when these two friends were like, "Yo, we're learning breaking," at first, I'm not gonna lie, like me knowing what I knew about breaking at the time, I was like, "Yeah, I ain't break. Shut up, you're not breaking." But then no, we ended up like chilling with them a lot after that, and like they were like into it. At that point, I pretty much knew like what I leaned more towards, and like I don't have the athleticism to be good at breaking, but like I had footwork and top rock, just based on like dance skills and like growing up doing salsa in the house, really helped with top rock.
Yeah.
So like I would be in it for that, but then like I would watch like our friend Felix. He's like super athletic. Like this kid, he wasn't even on any teams or anything, right? Yeah, shout out Felix, yo. He's super athletic, so like he was doing like fucking like power moves like out of nowhere. From like he learned windmills like yeah,
crazy.
and then like the other dude, our other friend that was doing it, shout out Orlando, like he was like going in on like footwork, and like I would learn like I learned the 6-step when I was like real young, and then hanging out with him I started like there's a 12-step and there's like this step, and like that's what really opened my eyes to like the intricacies of breaking.
Yeah.
What like was it like the power that attracted you, or just like the footwork?
I have to say it was the power.
Yeah.
But even though from football I learned a little bit of being athletic and like being learning about strength behind it, I wasn't able to do power right away. So like watching and trying to learn how to do flares and like windmills and stuff like that, it was so complicated for me. I was just like, let me just stick to top rock and footwork for now, But like, so what I used to do actually in college was, like I was saying earlier, Kid Glide used to come to the college and like teach like these mini sessions for like college students who wanted to learn. And there was times where he would come in and he would like teach them some footwork. But like I guess I was like very shy or nervous to kind of like ask somebody to like teach me. So what I would do is like as he's like teaching it, I'm like watching like in a corner, and I would watch him and like think about all the steps that he was like teaching those students, and then I would go in like this little secluded spot and try to practice it on my own. So I was doing that for about a couple of weeks until like one time he actually like saw me like like doing it, and he was like, "Nah, man, just come over and I'll teach you." So like I can understand that. Like I think what helped me get more athletic was the top rock and the footwork. Like the more footwork that I was doing and like pushing my arms down into the ground, it was actually giving me that strength to go for flares.
Interesting.
Or like be able to like whip my hips for like a windmill. So like I can understand.
No, that makes sense. Because like obviously you would need to have full body control. To have clean footwork in the first place, you gotta hold yourself up anyway.
Yeah. There's specific little small techniques like
Yeah.
Like I learned like if you're doing your footwork flat-handed, like that's bringing the body weight down more down to the ground, and now it's not only making it heavier on your body, but now it's making your feet go out further. And because your feet are going out further, that slows you down. And now you have this big momentum of whipping around in a circle. So. Damn. Glide taught me to like have the top down to my like kind of closer to my fingertips to the top of my palm, and like try to go like on the ball of your feet. Yeah, and then from there it's just like, oh, this is a lot faster.
This works.
It's like, that was the little secret to this whole time.
Technique.
It's
important.
Yeah.
Was there like a moment where you were like I'm good at this, like I should keep going with this?
I think, honestly, it wasn't... I think what I knew from football or all of my hobbies was, like, in order for you to get really good at something, you have to continue to keep practicing it, right? Like, if you already see yourself... I guess, like, you can say, like, I learned this from, like, a very young age from experience, which is if you want to aim for something, you see yourself down the line from it. So if you're an artist, if you're... illustrator. All right, you want to continue to keep building on that skill. you're like, all right, I want to be a cartoonist. All right, from 10 years from now, I'm just going to keep practicing and learn all the techniques in order for me to be a cartoonist. It was the same with breaking. I think it was great because I had a visualization of me doing it, and I had people in the scene who were actually doing it. If Kid Glide I think it was 2009, and I was just still kind of learning it.
Yeah.
This was like my first semester. I think this is like my second semester at Nassau Community College.
Okay.
And he got invited to do this big competition that everybody knows about called Rebel BC1. Right? I got to watch that competition. I seen the best in the world, and I seen Kid Glide there. The person that I just met in my school competing in this big world battle.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, it makes it that much more real.
And it was just like, there was a lot of arguments with my parents, because obviously they don't see that vision. Like, they're very traditional. They see, all right, in order for us to succeed in life, you have to get a job, go to school, and just continue to keep working until, like, you make it, right? There's no other thing outside of what they know. But they're not with me in school seeing these awesome people who are traveling the world getting paid to do what they love to do.
It's possible.
It is possible.
Yeah.
So it just takes the time. Like, you have to know, like, if you're 22, all right, in 10 years I'm going to be 32. Like, this is something I love to do. I have to keep practicing it.
Right.
I have all the time in the world.
Yeah. No, the dedication is important with the discipline, but I think that's definitely something that is a huge struggle especially with artists, where it's like, we do what we do because we love it, and sometimes when we don't feel that love, it's hard to keep pursuing it.
Keep going.
But that's the important part, is to break through that.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is like how you're thinking behind it. Like, are you doing what you love to do for other people, or are you doing it because it's truly something that's fascinating for you to keep going?
For sure.
And I think that's what it was for me. It was just like a lot of sacrificing the time to put towards breaking, knowing, like, from all of the examples around me, it will work out.
Dope.
It can work out.
Were you in school with like a major as a backup or anything?
I was going to school for graphics and design.
Oh,
so that
sick.
That cartoon analogy I was just doing, I was actually trying to become a cartoonist.
Sick.
I think what led me to go to more breaking was now they're both kind of the same field, right? They're
both
artistic, right? It's art. With graphics and design, when I was learning from a lot of my professors, they were like, this is the way that you succeed in graphics and design. You have to go this way. Compared to breaking, I was like, all right, there's people around the world who are known for top rock. Their power isn't that good, but like, their top rock is their power.
Right.
Like, there's people who are extremely good at footwork. Maybe their top rock and freezes are not good, but like, they're the best known in the world for their footwork. So it was just
there's
like
powerheads that don't do any footwork.
That don't do both, right? But they're extremely good at their discipline, And it was just like learning, like, man, do I want to go in a field where I'm still kind of being told I'm being creative, but I'm being told how to be creative, compared to being in a field where I can be creative and nobody can tell me that I'm wrong.
Yeah. Damn, that's important.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, so it was just like, all right, well, breaking is like, nobody can tell me how to dance. People can tell me how to do the basics,
right.
But at the end of the day, it's like, again, you're an artist, so like, you have to make yourself different compared to all the other people. It was also with graphics and design where I felt like there was more of a dog-eat-dog type of mentality behind it, right? Like, you are all competing with individual artworks, art pieces, art projects, and you're trying to show this company that yours is the best.
Right.
But at that same time that you're showing that you're the best, it could possibly be eliminating other people who need that paycheck too, right? Compared to, like, I feel like breaking is like, if I succeed, somebody who's behind me will succeed, because now we're setting a path for each other. Like, we're making a path where it's a whole lot easier for all of us to travel down to. Compared to, like, with art and design or graphics and design, like, shout out to all the people who are in graphics and design. I don't mean anything behind it. It's just, I feel like if it's me or it's either me or you type of thing, compared to me and breaking, like sometimes in battles just like that, but like at the end of the day you'll notice like they always show love to each other.
Right, like that's a certain setting,
You know.
but you can't like grow a community off of just competition.
Yeah.
Like there has to be some sort of camaraderie. Yeah.
I mean, if you're not cheering on somebody, that person kind of falls out of that love for what we were saying
Right.
about earlier, right? I think that's what made me fall out of love with graphics design. I'll still do it here and there, but I'm realizing, my passion or where I get my energy is in breaking or in dancing.
Yeah.
And like having people and being able to watch people pursue what their perspective of what dancing is.
Dope.
You know?
And then like breaking itself is like it's one of those styles that kind of like has freestyle built into it. So it's like, yeah, like of course like that's gonna be way more liberating. It's like you can basically do what, like you can put these puzzle pieces together in any picture
In
you
any
want.
way that you want.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
I mean, that's how hip hop became
Yeah,
where it is, right? It was like it's a form of creation and freedom and like fun.
Yeah.
The saying is peace, unity, and having fun. And love. Don't forget.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot. Peace, love,
mean,
unity, and having fun.
You would know. You were there when the Bronx was burning and running with the gangs through the rubble.
Yes. Shout out to Baz Luhrmann and the Get Down.
Yo.
It was such a fun experience being in that. Yeah.
I gotta know everything. As much as you want to talk about that, please talk about that.
So,
I have to know.
All right. So I'm gonna give another shout out to his name is Kem from Floor Up Sessions. Super dope guy, legend, and the breaking scene. He ended up becoming a stunt coordinator. So a lot of shows that we've been watching, like Altered Carbon.
Yeah,
He was
that's on
he was
Netflix.
actually a stunt choreographer
Dope.
on that. So he sent out like this email to a couple of the dancers from around the New York City area for this audition.
Okay.
It was a closed audition. Didn't know what it was for, but I was like, yeah, all right, I'll give it a shot. I've never really done any TV. I was like, what's the worst that can happen, right? I go to this audition, and it's like the best breakers of New York, and I'm sitting here like, oh man, I'm gonna have a hard time here because like I know a lot of these guys and what they're capable of. I was like, I know they're definitely gonna get it. So with the mindset, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna have fun, be me, and like see what happens, right? So I do my audition. They did this one thing in the audition which kind of shocked me, and I was like, oh, I could definitely do that. Was me and my younger sister used to do this in our home in Queens, where we would pretend like we were fighting each other, like stunt choreography already. So they had us do like a little stunt choreography piece, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do that. So like compared to some of the breakers, they didn't really know how to like pretend to take a punch, right? Me and my sister were doing this since we've grown up. I was like, oh, this is easy. So did it. I'm at the end of the at the end of the audition. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. Again, there's a lot of great dancers on here. I don't know if I'm gonna get it. The next morning, I get a phone call. I get a phone call from the stunt choreographer. He was like, "Hey,
fast.
look."
That's
Yeah, I was like, okay. He's calling me. He's like, "Yeah, so we just need to know your sizes because I don't know if you know or if you got the information, but you got the part." I was like,
Sick.
oh, all right, cool. So
Wait, at this point, do you know what the project is?
they are telling me now it's the show that Baz Luhrmann's coming up with. It's called The Get Down.
Were you familiar with like his work?
I only knew that he did Romeo and Juliet. That was the one. That was the one that I researched that I knew about.
Yeah.
And then I heard that he did Moulin Rouge and all these other good, dope movies, and I was just like, oh, all right, that's cool. The funny thing is, I'm telling my dad that I landed this role, and he's super excited. He's like, yeah, I know about this one. I know the director. Like, yo, that's amazing. I was like, okay. I was like, all right. I mean, if it's cool for you, I guess it's cool for me, right?
I'm just dancing and fighting.
Yeah, I'm just dancing and fighting. I'm just along for the ride, you know? So we do the fitting. Within the weeks, we do the fitting. We're like getting to know the cast and like what what our roles are. And the funny thing is, I like to think, as we were talking before, like me being a good guy, right? I'm always going to be a good guy. I get casted for a role as a gang member. And I started to die because I was just like, oh man, I don't even know how I would become a gang member. I was like, how does that even work?
Nicest gang member in the world.
Nicest gang member in the world.
Will you please give me your money, man?
I'm gonna need you to step off my block, sir. You know, so it was just like, all right, well now I have to like kind of prepare myself for this role of being like this bad guy, right, who can kill anybody on a dime. So I'm coming up with like this persona and like thinking of how I'm gonna go about this.
Backstory.
Yo, it was so funny story. There was a scene that I think it was one of the kids was trying to rob Books. The guy who
the main
Books, who's one of the main guys, and they're robbing him. If you see on the scene, it's like a kind of a parking lot. It's like run down. It's like the burnt down building, right? So they were practicing the role before they actually was going to shoot it.
Okay.
And Baz came over. He asked me to be like one of the guys to kind of walk down this path.
Dope.
And this path is like there's like old refrigerator. There's beaten up bricks and this and the third, right? So I have to watch my step as I'm going down. But because it's Baz Luhrmann who's right next to me, I'm like, oh, well, I got to, even though it's a practice, I'm going to keep my character, right? So I'm thinking I'm like this badass walking down this pile. Next thing you know, I'm like looking at the one of the main characters, but didn't notice that there was a brick in front of my foot. Oh, shit. So I trip over the brick. And I'm like, oh, no, this is going to be embarrassing if I just splat. So what I ended up doing was like doing this forward roll, right? And I forward rolled on this pile of bricks, and I got up still in character. And they were like, okay, we're going to keep that.
Oh, he's hard.
Jaden Smith, who was on this project, he was like, this guy, he actually rolled on bricks. That is definitely a stuntman. And I was like, yo, all right, well, my first time ever in front of the stars. I'm tripping.
You got jumped in with bricks.
Exactly. Jumping around on bricks. At the end of it, I was like still holding in the pain of me rolling on it. I was like, this is not gonna feel good tomorrow. Totally not gonna feel good tomorrow. Dude. But it was such a good experience. It was so fun. There was times where like we were doing like parkour on a roof. We were doing free running on the roof. We were like flipping over cars. We were running on top of cars. The last scene was when we were running into the club. Right? And they were like, all right, well, somebody's going to have to die here. Oh, shit. And there's 4 of us, right? There's 4 Savage Warlords, so we're all, like, looking at each other. So, like, the stunt choreographer is looking at each of us. He looks at me, he's like, it's going to be you. I was like, I was like, all right. I was starting to get so attached to this character. Now he's going to have to die. So it was so cool for that experience. Again, I'm thinking, like, I'm being hired to do as a dancer, being a dancer, but this is more of like a stunt thing.
Yeah, it's like actual acting.
Yeah, actual acting, like you're actually on camera where a whole bunch of your friends are going to watch it, right? So they do the scene where I get shot, right? They release it maybe a couple of months after, or maybe a year down the road, they finally put it on Netflix and everybody's watching it. I've gotten so many people sending me videos of the scene of me getting shot. And they were like, no, Spidey, why? I would go to competitions and they would dim down the music. I was like, yo, shout out to Spidey because he's alive.
Damn!
it was like
I didn't really die.
Like, guys, it's a show, but it was hilarious, right? It was too funny. It was like I feel like it was such a good year because like it was like meeting new people, doing what I loved to do, and like proving to like my parents at that time who like we were arguing. Love my parents to death, by the way. We were like argue all the time about like what am I doing with my life? Like breaking is not gonna get me anywhere. And now they're watching me on Netflix.
It got you shot.
Yeah, it got me shot. So it was super cool,
wild.
super
fun.
That
must be so surreal. It's like watching yourself.
Yep.
Get
every
shot.
time it's just like, oh man, I gotta record this.
Dude, was that like for one episode? Like, how much time did you spend?
We
shooting
spent,
it?
man, we spent like about a month to 2 months.
Month on that?
And then we had to do reshoots on
Yeah.
some of those times too.
I remember when they were making it, because I remember it being a big deal when it was announced.
Yeah.
And then I remember they were shooting the first episode, I believe, and like it, I think quickly went over budget, so they extended the
Yep,
shooting of it,
on the
and it
first
became
day.
like the most expensive pilot in TV history.
Yeah, he ended up overspending on, and it was all
Yeah.
on the first pilot
literally just
episode.
the first
And it was like
episode.
everything else was just like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, right. I'm pretty much sure that, I mean, I would have loved to have him do like more of the show.
Yeah.
But I think because he blew that budget,
Oh, yeah.
it like shortened
Yeah,
how many
completely.
episodes he actually
Oh,
he
yeah.
had to do. It was just like, oh man. Like me and my friends who were like playing the Savage Warlords because like we loved it so much.
Yeah.
We were like trying to.
Were they
like,
all
do them.
B-boys?
Some of them were actually. Some of them were B-boys. Some of them were doing free running and
Oh, okay.
parkour and tricking.
Gotcha. So it's just like a team of stunt.
Yeah, it was
gang
like
members.
people who can do dancing, can flip, can get from one point to the other.
You're in.
Who can fight?
You're in.
You're in.
That's
you know?
dope though. And like, that was your first time getting booked for
Yeah,
dance?
Yeah. And then then there was a second show that second movie that actually went on Netflix called Barry.
Okay.
It was supposed to be for.
Oh, is it the young Barack Obama movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you notice in that scene when he goes to the club, the guys who are doing breaking.
Yeah.
I'm actually the guy who was doing the windmills in that show.
Dope.
So that was the second project that I booked that I was like, yo, this is so fun. Who would have thought? Like, I thought I was gonna be, getting jobs in graphics design, going to school there, and turn around. I'm traveling the world doing breaking.
See where dance could get you? See?
Just keep it going. Just stay disciplined.
That's dope though. When like early in like training and stuff, did you ever watch what is it, like Breakin' or Beat Street, like all the old movies?
I feel like that was like a requirement. Like,
Yeah.
that's-
It's on the curriculum?
Yeah, it's on the curriculum. As you're going through breaking, you have to watch these classic movies,
Yeah.
right? Like Breakin', Breakin' 2, you
Right,
have
Electric
Wild
Boogaloo.
Style. Yeah. Yeah.
Wild Style. That's probably my favorite one at all though. That's because like Breakin's called Breakin', but it's not a lot of breaking.
Yeah, it's more
in
like
it.
it's more like popping and
Yeah,
rocking in it.
yeah. Damn.
Yeah,
But still though, that turbo broom scene.
Yeah,
It's
classic.
iconic. It's iconic.
Super classic.
That's dope though. So football, dancing, graphic design, and did I see that you're getting into DJing?
I am getting into DJing
Yo.
now. Yeah.
What's that like?
It is fun because when I was in breaking, like I was always listening to music.
Right.
Right?
Naturally.
Like, I mean, you would think that would be the thing, right? But like there's the intricacies that go into music.
Right.
There's the instruments, there's their patterns, there's these cadences that
Mm-hmm.
I feel like an alien listening to all these things because like I'll look around and nobody else technically can pick it up or hear it, and I'm just like, oh, am I the only one that can hear this? So like,
It's that trained ear.
yeah. I mean, so all right, there's a little bit of a background. So my dad was actually in a band, like he was a
sick.
musician.
What'd
So he played drums.
Nice.
And he was like a producer too, so sometimes he would
Sick.
put music together. So I guess like I kind of had like a head start of like listening to music and like getting patterns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I played guitar for a little while too.
Nice.
And it got to a point where like I can hear notes with just by picking it
Yep.
up by ear.
Yeah.
I sucked reading notes. I always did tabs, but like whenever I heard music, I'm like, oh, okay, let me see if I can try to figure that out.
No, that's a thing. That's my dad's the same way. I kind of have that from him too.
Oh.
He's a Latin percussionist, so like bongos, congas, like anything like that. That was
Yeah.
his shit. Like growing up, that was his shit. Never learned to read, but like always got invited to like come play this gig or come play that gig because like just by
'Cause
ear
his
he
ears
was able to
is
just yeah.
phenomenal. So that kind of like plays a little bit into like DJing now too.
Yeah.
And like producing music. There's a little hint, in another hobby that I did before breaking was skateboarding.
Oh, nice.
I was trying to get sponsored before I actually went into breaking.
Word?
Yeah.
Like you were that deep into skating?
I was hitting kick flips. I was hitting heel flips. I would do like
Dude.
180s. But the thing that
Shout
the
out to
thing
the
that,
trick
that got me in breaking was like I can control my injuries. I can control how I felt. There was one time, man, my dad was so upset. Like I went skating the night before a very important football game, and I tried to kick flip down these. It was not that many stairs. It was like a 3-step with a couple of friends. I tried to kick flip. It under rotated. I like stepped on the side of the board and sprained my ankle.
You pre-moded it?
Yeah. Pre-mode hard. And not only did it pre-mode, like you would think like the board would have flipped down when I
Right.
stepped on it. It stayed there and it twisted my ankle.
I hate ankle injuries so much.
It's the worst.
Sorry.
My dad.
Sorry.
Yo, my dad was so upset. He was so upset. He was like, "How could you do that the day, like a week before? Like you know they're gonna need you."
Damn.
And I was like, So like we were that day at the game. I was there with crutches and I was watching it. And when we were all giving high fives to the other team, they looked at me and they recognized me from like footage. They're like, "Oh, you were the running back." They're like, "Oh shit, okay, all right." That's why we took it so easy. It was like, I was like,
If you played, they were
yeah. If I
done.
would have played, they were like, "Oh man," they were like, "Yeah, we were preparing to like stop you." I was just like, "Wow, okay, well."
That's funny. Dude, you're like literally a hero. Like breaking and skating are probably the 2 top things on my list of like things I wish I started when I was younger, because they're both amazing. Like aesthetically, they're both just like amazing to look at.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then like the intricacies of them are like so hard. Like those are 2 of the hardest things
my
to
God.
do physically.
If like you don't know about any skateboarding, definitely look up Ronnie Mellon.
Yeah,
Ronnie Mellon
hell
is
yeah.
like
Legend.
the legend.
Dude.
Like you guys see like what's happening in the X Games. That guy was the X Games.
Yeah. And before like going vertical was even like cool, you know? Like he innovated a lot of shit, started it, created it, and still
still to this day,
at this
still
he's an
going.
interesting dude too. You ever like watch him talk?
I know he's very spiritual.
Yeah, he's
Like,
interesting. He did a whole TED talk.
I never knew that.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
they give a lot of people TED Talks. But no, and I don't know if he was on the board the whole time, but like he was using the board and stuff. But he made a lot of good points just about like life and balance and how getting up, when you fall, and like that's a big thing. And obviously in skating, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But again, like it's one of those things where you have to come at it from a place of not fearing it.
Yeah.
Because it is fucking scary.
Yeah, yeah. And when you injure yourself, you're
Yeah.
upset the whole time that you're
Yeah.
recovering.
I know it.
Shout out to MJ.
Not to keep talking about injuries.
Shout out to MJ.
Right here.
Literally last summer. Last summer was the first time I tried to skate in a skate park in my whole life. And like I had taken a few weeks before that where I was just like working on basics, just getting way more comfortable. Because in like high school, like towards the end of high school, is the first time I really picked up a board and like actually learned how to ride it. But it's a cruiser, so
Okay.
I was literally just using it, to
get from
point A to point B, whatever. And then like during the pandemic, I have a few boards in my house, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, like might as well, not doing nothing else. So I got a little bit more into it to the point where like I legitimately ollied for the first time. That felt amazing. And then one day we were just like, yeah, let's just go to the skate park and see what's up.
Dope.
And at first I was like, okay, like the momentum of going up and down a ramp is fucking scary.
Yep.
And then got too comfortable, like in between a mini ramp and just coming back down. Just wasn't paying attention. Board slipped out from under me.
Yep.
And my foot like landed like this. So it immediately swelled up, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's enough skating.
That's enough for
Yeah.
quite some time.
Like the rest of my life. That's fine.
Yeah.
But that's dope though. Damn. How long were you skating?
Man, I started pretty young.
Yeah.
Me and my neighbor, we started around 6, 7.
Damn.
Like I was 6,
Yeah,
7
so
when I like kind of picked it up and I was like watching the X
best.
Games and stuff like
Fuck
that. I was like,
yeah.
oh man, I want to do that.
And then that was what, like late 90s, early 2000s?
92, 93.
Yeah. So yeah, so then that
Yeah.
was like X Games
Excuse
was like
me.
just about to.
Yeah, like I think it was. I'm sorry because I'm thinking like 92, 93, but I'm like 4 or 5 years old, so there's no way. I want to say maybe 7 years old, so that might be like 98.
Yeah.
97,
Yeah.
98.
So like
but
Tony
around that
Hawk was
time.
like becoming Tony
That's when
freaking
he.
Hawk.
I think that was the year he actually
He
hit
hit
the
the
900.
9,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what a time.
Even my mom was like a good supporter about that. Like she would watch the X Games with me, and she would like
That's
get
what's up.
excited. Yeah.
See, that was an interesting time though, because like I feel like there's a bunch of things that were super popular or like considered really cool at that time that just like aren't anymore.
Yeah.
Like skating was one of them. Pro wrestling was another one during that time. Like that was like the Stone Cold, the Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Rock
Rocks,
days.
yep.
It's like mad people that were never actually into skating, like knew Tony Hawk, or like were never into wrestling, knew The Rock. It's just pop culture. Like that shit took over.
Yep.
That's dope though. So you don't fuck with skating at all now? Or-
Once in a blue moon. I
Yeah.
still have it in my car whenever like
Just, yeah.
I see like friends who want to skate. And I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
go to my car and go pick it up. I think the last time I actually went to a park was with a good friend of mine in the Bronx. There's one not that far from Yankee Stadium.
Is it the Van Cortlandt one? Was it?
Malali Park.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's a dope park.
Underneath.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Got you.
Yeah, I went skating over there. It was
Hell yeah.
like, I mean, it was it was after like maybe a hiatus of like a year or two.
How did that feel?
It felt like it was a little rusty. I was
Yeah.
still throwing my body down. I was like, yeah, I don't miss throwing myself down like this. But after a few times of spilling, I was like, all right, back on it. Let's keep it going.
Rather like purposefully be on the floor.
Now, cool thing about breaking, it hits every time you fall.
I mean, at least you're
right
closer.
into 6-step.
What would you say is the hardest skating trick you've ever learned?
I think it would be kickflip varial,
Kickflip varial.
which is like, think of 360 flip,
Yeah.
but it's only going 180.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what's the hardest thing you've ever accomplished in breaking?
Air flare.
Air flare.
As popular as that move is now, for me, it was
Yeah.
air flare. Like air flare for breaking would be the 360 flip of skating.
Right.
You know,
That's
people are
what
like
they're-
constantly keep like they have to keep
But then once
practicing
you
it.
got them, you're doing
Yeah,
them all the time.
all the time. It's like natural. It's like second nature.
What's harder? Air flares or
For
varial
me,
kickflips?
For me, it would have been varial kickflips
Yeah.
because like it's unpredictable. If I flick too hard,
Yeah.
I might over rotate the board, and
Yeah.
then I'm freaking out because I'm like, all right, I hope I land back on the board.
Right.
Compared to like air flare, it's like, okay, I have to make sure that I land on the other arm and I try to keep myself up.
And it's all based on you.
Yeah.
You don't got a board to worry
Yeah,
about.
you don't have a second objective there with you
An inanimate object that has a mind of
of
its
its own. Exactly.
The
It has its
worst.
own weight and gravity.
Dude, that's dope though. You ever like touched anything pro with skating or anything like that? Like
I mean,
comps or anything like that?
I was really close to. I wanted to. I guess like in a way, I was like I wanted to feel a little bit more. How do I say it? More stable. Like a lot of my tricks were like super basic.
Okay.
Like if it came to like grinds and stuff like that, I wanted to try to get to like a more complicated grind. Like if it was like a feeble grind.
Yeah.
Or
Get
if
more
I-
tech with it.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
felt like once, as we were talking about it, once I get a 360 flip, all right, now I know I can go into competitions and like compete.
That's the standard.
Yeah, the standard is
Tray
like, all right,
flips
tray
or no?
flips.
That's the audition process.
Yeah.
Can you do a tray flip? No. Get out.
So all my friends have tray flips. It's like, oh man, if I don't have a tray flip, then what's the point of me going to competitions, you know? But yeah, I never really gotten that far into skating. Like just because like every time I got injured, there was more time that I had to take off for me to
Right.
heal back, for me to come back.
Yeah.
You know?
What a life.
Yeah.
What a lifestyle.
It's like inconsistencies.
Mm.
One day you'll have one basic normal grind, and
Yeah.
then you injure yourself, you take a week off, and then that basic grind that you used to have is not so basic
Yeah.
anymore. So,
But breaking, you can get the
Keep-
flow back.
like riding a bike. I
That's
felt like I
awesome.
was riding a bike.
That's
My
awesome.
fear was always taking too long of a break away from breaking and losing moves.
Got you.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
more on like a personal choice.
Yeah, that was more of like a self-discipline for myself.
Mm.
I was like, all right, I don't want to be too far away from this because like I don't want it to be hard again.
Right. Don't want to lose it. Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, that makes sense. I wanted to ask you about the Nets hype team. How did
Team
that
hype,
come
team
out?
hype.
Yeah. How did that come out?
So I have a friend. His name is Alexander the Great from Dynamic Rockers. At the time,
Okay.
I was me and him were crew members. He was working actually as the team hype, Brooklyn Nets team hype. And I thought about it, and I was like, oh, well, that could be another job of like doing what I love to do.
Yeah.
So he was telling me that there's auditions every summer.
Oh shit.
So I think at the time that I was talking to him about it, it was probably around September. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to kind of wait for it to come back around.
Right.
But watching his stories, I was just seeing like looks super fun, right? So I found out maybe around that May, like, so he told me in September, kind of some time went by, and then May, that they had another kind of separate little team. It's kind of for the G League.
Oh,
so
okay.
the Brooklyn Nets have a G League
Yeah.
called the Long Island
Yep.
Nets, right? So I auditioned for the Long Island Nets.
Got you.
Kind of the same thing. They had the same captains from the Brooklyn Nets. They have Crucia, who is the entertainment director at the Brooklyn Nets. Super awesome. Yeah, so they were holding auditions there. I'm just like, okay, well, let me go and try this out and
Yeah.
see how this goes. Maybe another thing, just like how
Maybe they have me fighting.
just like how in the Get Down, it's just like, all right, I see some good guys here. I guess we'll see how it goes. One of the captains at the time, his name was Alex, different Alex Diaz.
Alex, not so great.
No, he was pretty cool. He was a pretty cool guy. He was good. Maybe not great, but he was good.
Alex the good.
No, shout out to Alex. So he actually was one of the captains on the Brooklyn Nets, and he recognized me. He was like, "Oh, all right, yo." He put in a good word for me. He was like,
Dope.
"All right, watch this guy. This guy is like pretty dope." So did the audition. They loved what I did, and a couple of weeks later, they hit me up and let me know about how it works. And I was a Long Island Net. Did a season with the Long Island Nets, and I was like, okay, this is pretty like simple, like where I like being outgoing. I like cheering on the, hyping up the crowd. So it was like, okay. By the next time around, so that was a full year in the Long Island Nets. Then I went out for the Brooklyn Nets, and now I built a rapport with everybody from the Long Island Nets, and like Crucia and Alex and Jamal, who were the captains on the team, and auditioned there, and just brought that same energy that I had in Long Island and brought it into Brooklyn,
Hell yeah.
and it made the audition.
No, that's dope. What's that? Because we talked about how freestyle is a big part of breaking and your journey especially. What's it like to sort of be in a more, I guess, like choreographed environment?
That was a challenge for me. Because now you are learning eights. Like, I mean, again, from being a magician, I mean, not a magician.
Yo,
Yeah,
you're a
huzzah!
musician too? Damn.
Secrets out. No, kidding. As a musician, picking up 8 counts. Now I'm putting set 8 count of movement together. And I have to be at the same time as these other guys. It was kind of relatively easy just because like I was thinking routines when I was in a part of my breaking crew.
Yeah.
But it was just a little trickier now because now we're doing it for an audience, and the audience is gonna know when you mess up.
Shit, an audience,
right?
an arena.
Yeah, whole arena, the basketball team too. They'll see it and you're like, he messed up.
And then Kevin Durant will blame losing on like fucking team hype.
He was like, yeah, the entertainment team wasn't on game. No, but it was something that I constantly had to It was a challenge for me. So my first year, I told them, they were like, well, one of the questions that they asked me in the interview was like, how comfortable do you feel with choreography? And I told them right out the gate, I was like, hey, it's not going to be my strong suit. I will work myself to try to get it. And in those rehearsals, anytime I felt like I didn't have it 100%, there were some people who were like, oh, I got it close enough, right? I was one of the guys who were like, hey, can we do the whole thing again? Because like I felt like I was a little off on that. And like they recognized that.
Hell yeah.
You know?
No, that's great.
You know.
They want to see that, that initiative to get better. Hell yeah. And then they can trust you, you know?
Yeah, because now they know that I'm not trying to like give less than 100 or less than 110.
Right.
You know? It's just like, I think it's just started to become a habit of just like wanting, like loving something so much that I'm want to learn more than 100% of it.
For sure.
And like just make it, master it,
Yeah.
you know? So it comes with all crafts.
Yeah.
It's just like if you love something and you just like constantly have this energy of this burning desire to like want it 100%.
Totally.
Yeah.
What do you sort of like looking for like next? Like what's next for your career that you're looking at?
At the moment, so even though this year was a learning experience because this year I set my goals on traveling internationally, right? And I applied for a passport in the beginning of the year, and they're supposed to only take 2 months. Mine's took 4. I didn't really get my passport until April, and I was just like, oh man, well, like, what do I do now? Like, where do I go?
Yeah, like delays the whole process.
Yeah. And not only that, like personal life, outside of life, like I try to take care of my mom and my younger sister. Unfortunately, my dad passed away about 5 years ago.
Damn.
So we went through this whole situation where we used to live in Queens, and now we live all the way in Suffolk County, County, Long Island. Yeah. So it's like a kind of a change for all three of us, because my life technically is like in the city, like Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens,
right.
Bronx. So traveling from Suffolk County all the way to the city almost every day is like, it used to be a challenge, but now it's just like, all right, well, how can I make this work and take care of my mom and my younger sister and show them that they can do the same thing, you know? So this whole year has just been about, all right, for now, I am still going to continue to keep training on myself because I've had injuries that I've been not taking care of and not really focusing on healing. So I was like, okay, for now, I'm going to continue to keep practicing, but I'm going to also focus on my personal life and like help my mom and help my sister and help teach them about like what I've learned about myself in the past couple of years, you know? Like being having more of an open mind, not only just an open mind, but a stronger mind, just to help you get over obstacles. Because like obstacles are always going to be in your life, right? And how you view your obstacle is how you get past that obstacle, or if that obstacle is going to stop you. So it's just like always rebranding and relearning about myself and learning about people around me, and like it's a challenge.
No, for sure. But that determination, though, like, super inspiring. That you can do what you love, learn from it, but then have the thought that, like, oh, no, I can use this in my personal life. I can use this to help the ones I love. Like, that goes way beyond dance. Like, that's just humanistic. Like, again, super inspiring. Yeah. If y'all didn't hear anything, hear that part. Like that's the important part. Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I've been learning about like some of my students too.
Yeah.
When I'm teaching them, like when they don't think that they can get a certain move, when they get that move, it just bleeds into their personal life. Like I have an example with a student of mine. We call him Oblivion. Super funny kid. But I've been teaching him for 4 years, breaking 4 years from this private school, charter school in the city. And his teachers have noticed since the years he's been breaking with me, like all the barriers that he thinks that he's had in his life, he's just been breaking through. Like he's like, okay, I mean, I do breakdancing, which is one of the hardest dances in the world. He's
Exactly.
like, nothing can really stop me. I can think about how to. I can think of my solutions here.
100%.
You
That's
know?
that's what it is. Because like, if you determine yourself to do something difficult, everything else is gonna pretty much be a breeze.
Yep.
Because then you know that you can get past difficult things. So when something difficult does arise, it's like, oh,
Just another one. All right.
I'll figure this
All
out.
right. What's the equation of this one?
Right. That's what's up, man. That's awesome. True hero.
Yeah.
Spydey, true hero.
Appreciate you.
Dude,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this, dude.
Thank you for having me.
This is awesome. I
is-
love getting to know all of that. Genuinely.
yeah.
It's so good.
There'll be more. I know there will definitely have more times where we'll sit
Hell
and
yeah.
just talk more about it.
Hell yeah. Do you have anything like coming up that you want to shout out, promote, your page, anything, classes?
If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, it's __Spydey, but you spell Spidey with a Y, so it's SPYDEY. I will be DJing actually. This breakdancing event is called Hybrid Theory. They pair one of the best breakers in New York with a student who is also probably, that kid could either be like super dope or he's like still learning. But they are pairing like a best breaker with a kid, and they battle it out in a 2 versus 2.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
And you're DJing that event?
And I'm going to be DJing that event.
Fire.
And it's going to be at Wondrous Breaking Studio in Bushwick.
Yeah.
So if you're free and have some free time, come through.
Dope.
Listen to
When is it?
This Saturday, actually. Okay. I don't know if this podcast will make it out to everybody in
It
time.
won't, but
All right.
we'll put it out in the ether.
Yes. If not, I've been DJing a lot more, so I'm going to a lot more events DJing, as well as like coming back out to go and battle more too. So I see you.
Hell yeah. I see you when I see you. Spydey, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks
again,
guys.
bro.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you.
All right.